So we told you that Benjamin Netanyahu is very unpopular in Israel, that there are hundreds of thousands of people protesting in the streets before this attack happened. And what we also find out is that Hamas was invented by Israel. Why? Because there was the Palestinian Liberation Organization, the PLO, and they were moderate and they were secular. Well, so Israel's idea was, hey, let's make this radical, a religious extremist organization, and they'll split the Palestinians. And so divide and conquer is much easier than trying to conquer a united Palestine. So they, listen, here it is. Anyone who wants to thwart the establishment, this is from Haaretz. Oh, yeah. Okay. So this is from a site. It says, anyone who wants to thwart the establishment of a Palestine state has to support bolstering Hamas and transferring money to Hamas. This is what Netanyahu told the Likud Party's Knesset members in March of 2019. This is part of our strategy. Well, first, let me say, great job.
Wow.
Yeah. Did Netanyahu's nicknames, are his nicknames Mr. Security and Babysitter?
As a matter of fact, they are. His nicknames?
Really?
Yeah, give himself that.
His nicknames are Mr. Security and Babysitter?
He calls himself the Babysitter.
Wow. Except we call him those names sarcastically now.
Yeah, let him keep those names. Just say it like, hey, here comes Mr. Security.
So just again, this is something I don't think you'll be told on mainstream news media, is that Israel government itself invented Hamas, funded Hamas, because they thought it would be easier to control the Palestinian people with two different organizations vying for their loyalty. And so that's called divide and conquer. And they're not going to tell you that on CNN or Fox or NBC News, or they're not going to tell you that what?
This is 29. This ain't 2006 when they walled them up because they voted for Hamas.
They blockade on 2006.
And so you blockaded them for how long? 17 years for voting for Hamas. And you're paying money to Hamas in 2019, and you're telling everybody that. I didn't know you were part of Iran.
Egypt intelligence official says Israel ignored repeated warnings of something big.
Was the warning not to invent Hamas?
Hey, come on. We can either play the blame game or we can do the adult thing and flatten Gaza and then bomb Iran's oil refineries.
Yeah.
That's the grown-up thing to do. In fact, whatever happens, we should definitely attack Iran. Am I right?
I'm thinking about that right now. I'm looking to the next attack. I'm with Lindsey Graham right now.
This is the thing, Jimmy, that we have to talk about. But it could spin so far out of control. What happens if they do go after and hit Iran? Iran is aligned with Russia.
Yeah.
This can get crazy.
Well, we'll forget all about that Ukraine screw up, won't we?
This could get really World War III, right? So here's another one, the Wall Street Journal, how Israel helped to spawn Hamas. That's from January 24th, 2009.
And they kept giving him money over that 10 years. The Prime Minister of Israel. Wow. Great job.
So here's Spike Cohen. He breaks it down. Hamas, to my great regret, is Israel's creation. These are the words of Avner Cohen, a former Israeli religious affairs official who worked in Gaza for decades. As you watch the death and destruction that is currently unfolding in Israel and Palestine, it's important for you to know that the Israeli government is responsible for the rise of Hamas. Wow. Well, my great regret is I wanted to blame Iran for this. So stop telling people that. If it wasn't for Israel's government, Hamas might not even exist at all. Starting in the late 70s, the Israeli government decided that they wanted a radical Islamist counterweight to the PLO, which was run by Yasser Arafat's secularist and left-wing Fatah party. Their thinking was that if the Palestinians were busy fighting each other, they wouldn't be able to fight Israel, so divide and conquer.
And they still thought that in 2019.
Yes.
In the 70s, they came up with this genius plan.
And they're still doing that plan in 2019.
Wow.
So they use the same plan we always use for everything that has always worked and never blew up in our assholes. And you want to blame Netanyahu for this?
They used the Hillary Pied Piper strategy that was so effective against Trump.
Well,
So let's keep going. Starting in the late 70s, they began giving direct funding to a fringe group of radicals, their organizations, and their mosques. One of them was Sheikh Ahmed Yassin, leader of the Muslim Brotherhood in Gaza, who had also formed the Islamist group Mujama al-Islamiyah. They were recognized as a charity by the Israeli government in 1979 and started receiving funding soon after. Brigadier General Yitzhak Sergev, who was the Israeli military governor in Gaza at the time, said that he was given a budget to fund these mosques and organizations and was told to give them preferential treatment over the PLO. Cohen wrote an official report to his superiors in the 1980s where he warned them against continuing the strategy. I suggest focusing our efforts on finding ways to break up this monster before this reality jumps in our face, he wrote at the time. They didn't listen. Let me guess. They called him a self-hating Jew?
Yep.
In 1987, those groups formed Hamas, and the rest is history. Thousands of innocent Israelis and Palestinians killed, and as we see today, the death count continues to rise. It's important to note that the United States government gave billions of dollars to the Israeli government and hundreds of millions to the Palestinian Authority. American taxpayers are being forced to bankroll the carnage you're currently witnessing. It's long past time for that to end. Foreign military aid is the act of taking money from working Americans and giving it to rich, powerful foreigners to fund wars, genocides, terrorism, and other horrors. It's long past the time for that to end. And here is from S.L. Canthan, says, did you know that Israel created Hamas? There were two reasons for this shocking strategy. Divide and rule, split the Palestinian leadership into two divisions. Use Hamas's hardline as an excuse to reject any peace plan. That is, create a controlled opposition which is violent enough to keep the endless war going and sabotage peace plans. Hamas is an offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood, which has had very close relations with the United States and the West for decades. However, this plan has now backfired. Now Hamas is too independent and too strong to be contained. Ironically, Hamas, the creation of Israelis and Americans, may force Israel to go back to the negotiation table.
Great job. The gain of functioned Hamas. Great work.
I think all our politicians need to read these tweets that you just put up there right now, because they're all saying we need to support Israel and it's time of need against these radical groups. Meanwhile, it was Israel and the United States who funded and supported these radical groups.
Okay, now, but can I ask you this? Do you guys think that we should stop funding Hamas? At this point? Because I remember hearing they weren't good like 20 years ago. And like, imagine how remember after 9/11, they're like, hey, we're going to still fund
we're going to still fund Al Qaeda.
I think we did, but we didn't tell everybody every 5 seconds.
So here's the spokesperson at the State Department, Kirby. Here's what he has to say.
Hamas wouldn't have been able to function at all had it not been for propping up by the Iranian regime. But we haven't seen any.
The Iranian regime.
So they're blaming Iranian. So they're blaming Iran for propping up Hamas when it was Israel specifically using American money.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think when Kirby found out the truth, he was crying about it, right? If I'm not mistaken. Oh, I was terribly mistaken about that.
So now this is what they're not telling you. This is what they're not telling you. They're telling you Hamas is just these crazies, and now we got to go fund Israel and slaughter Palestinians. This was the Israelis' plan all along, and there's no denying it because Netanyahu said it. It's on.
Yeah, I want to make it clear. I don't consider Hamas to be freedom fighters. I don't support them. Why did Netanyahu support them?
That's right.
It's just really weird. I don't go all far like that self-hating Jew Norman Finkelstein did.
That's right.
I would admire them. It just seems odd to me that your president would do that and brag about it and then blame Iran.
Let's see what else this idiot says.
Specific evidence that tells us they were witting, involved in the planning.
So this is it. They're blaming Iran. So
with no proof.
So with absolutely no proof. That's it. And so if the Ukraine war funding finally stopped in America, they're going to invent another war. Here it is. Yeah. And now it's going to be between Syria, Russia, Iran, Israel, and Hamas. And Hezbollah.
I heard Iran hid Nazis in Canada too back in the
Hey, come see us doing the live shows. We're going to be in Dallas, Houston, San Diego, Bloomington, Illinois, Indianapolis, Levittown, New York, Red Bank, New Jersey, Wilmington, Delaware, Covina, California, Burbank, California, and Oxnard, California. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for all those tickets. See you at a live show.